Hello everyone, I'm Coleen and today I'm finally going to be doing my November, December, and January wrap-up. So I didn't read much books for those 3 months anyway, so let's go get started. And yes, I did get a haircut and I still have no idea on how to style it, and so don't make fun of me. And so now I'm just gonna start off with a wrap-up. The first book that I read in November was an ebook, and it was Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rosh, and this is the first book in the Snow Like Ashes trilogy, and I really like this trilogy so far. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It is very action-packed, and it is set in a fantasy world where the whole thing is inspired by the season. There are 4 kingdoms that have the winter, summer, autumn, and spring season, and each kingdom has those set seasons, and we also have 4 rhythm kingdoms which don't have a set season, so they are at an advantage. In this world, spring has defeated winter. They have taken over the land and they have taken over their magic, and the people that survived in winter are now enslaved by spring, and so they work for the people in spring and they are kept in captivity. And we have like 10 or less people who managed to escape who were from winter, and they want to restore winter and get their magic back. And so that's how the whole series plays out, and it is so good, and I can't believe not much people have really read it. Like, I know there was a hype around it, but I wish more people would read it, and this series ends this year. Then the second book that I read in November was Ice Like Fire by Sarah Rosh, which is the second book in the Snow Like Ashes trilogy. I can't talk to you guys much about this book because it is the sequel, but I did do a spoiler-free review of this book, which, as long as you have read Snow Like Ashes, then you will be fine watching that video and you won't get spoiled at all. And so I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. There are still some action in this book, but there aren't as much as Snow Like Ashes. This book has more political intrigue, which I really loved. Then for December, I read A Thousand Pieces of You by Claudia Gray, which is the first book in the Firebird trilogy. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars and I really enjoyed it, and look at the cover, it's just so good. And they had a cover reveal for the third book, which I will insert right here. But this book follows a girl named Marguerite, and her father has died and she wants to get revenge. She wants to kill the person who has killed her father, and it is set in kind of like our world, but not really, because their technology has advanced so well. These 2 scientists who are Marguerite's parents, they managed to create like a locket where they can travel to other dimensions, but it's not like your body that is traveling to that dimension, it is your mind or your consciousness, and in those other dimensions a version of you exists, and so that's how you kind of work around the dimensions. And it's so interesting because in some dimensions you might not even exist. So yes, I wanted to read this book because of the whole dimensions elements, and I definitely got that from this book and I was so happy about it. Though I must say there is like almost a love triangle in this book. I didn't really mind it too much, and I wasn't a huge fan of the romance, but for the whole plot of this book I really liked, so I kept going with the series. So I read 10,000 Skies Above You by Claudia Gray, which is the second book, and I would like to thank Harper360 UK for sending me a copy of this book and this book in exchange for an honest review. I believe I gave 10,000 Skies Above You a 3.5 out of 5 stars or a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a good sequel and it had its own plot, and it is in a way a continuation of the first one, but at the same time I felt like it was also its own different book and it didn't feel like a bridge book too much. And yes, I really like this book and I still prefer the first one, but overall it is a good sequel and I can't wait to finish reading this trilogy this year. Then for my very last Catty-tastic TBR Jar challenge, I was to read an award-winning book, and so I decided to read Challenger Deep by Neil Shusterman. This recently won an award, but I can't remember what the award is, so I will try and put it up on the screen, and so you can check it out if you want. And I really like this book, but I didn't get to finish it for December. I finished it in January, and this was the first book that I read in January, and this book is like a deep book. It is very close to the author's heart because it deals with the topic of schizophrenia and mental illness, and his son suffered that, And so yes, this book is about schizophrenia and has some doodles around, and it was his son who did those doodles before he was treated, I believe. And this book follows a 15-year-old boy named Caden. There are like two plots in this book. One is his reality and the other one is what goes on in his head, but at the same time he feels like that second one is real, and sometimes he can't differentiate between the two. And I thought, like, when I first started reading this book, I felt like putting it down just because it was a little bit harder to get into, because the whole two things were very different, but as you keep reading on they start to like merge together and it all starts to make sense, and it was just written really beautifully with amazing quotes. And so yes, I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. And for his second reality, he is like part of a pirate ship crew, and he is to lead the pirates and the crew to the Challenger Deep. And so yes, if you've been wanting to read this book, I highly recommend it. And yes, it might be a little bit harder to get into, but I highly recommend you guys to keep on going. Then I read another ebook, which was My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick, which is sent to me by Electric Monkey in exchange for an honest review. Thank you so much, Electric Monkey, for sending me a copy of this book. And I gave this book like a 5 out of 5 stars, which was very weird because I didn't expect to like this book as much as I did. This book is a contemporary novel, and I tend to gravitate for fantasy more than contemporary. But this one was well done. It had a good amount of fluff and also realness, and I really liked that about it. And a lot of people love this book, and I can totally see why. It is set in America, where a 16-year-old girl named Samantha lives, and she lives with her sister and her mom. Her mom is a politician, and she's like very proper, and she hates mess, and she hates big families, kind of. And then when she was younger, a family moved into their house, which like, they had a lot of children, like 8 or more, and her mom just did not like that at all, and so she kind of like stayed away from the people, their neighbors. And at one point in this book, she starts a romance with someone from her neighborhood, which was kind of obvious. We kind of saw that one coming. And so yes, as I said, it had a good amount of fluff and also realism. Is that a word? But yes, also there was like a good thing for the relationship, but at the same time the relationship was a little bit unrealistic. It was kind of insta-lovey for me anyway, but I still enjoyed it. And last but not least, the last book that I read in January was Beside Myself by Anne Morgan, and thank you so much, Nat Gelly, for sending me a copy of this book in exchange for an honest review. I definitely enjoyed this book. It is like a literary thriller and psychological thriller. I really enjoyed this book. I think it's like young adult, but if you can read it if you're an adult too. And in this book there are twins. One is called Helen and the other one is called Ellie. And when they were younger, they thought that it'd be fun to switch places and like fool people, but at the end of the day, one of the twins refuses to give the other twin's life back. And in this book we follow one of the twins and how her life has gone on from the whole problem, and it is very interesting. The book has 2 timelines. One is written when they were younger and one is written when she's older, and so we see how her lives pan out and how she dealt with everything, and I really liked reading that. And I know that the writing style isn't for everyone, but I just didn't really care about that. I was so invested in the story, and while I was reading this book I could believe the swap and why people couldn't differentiate between the two, and in a way I found it very realistic and believable. So I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. So yes, these were all the books that I read, plus the 3 ebooks in the whole 3 months, and I'm very happy with myself because, yes, I didn't read a lot, but they were good books, and I didn't feel like I wasted my time at all. So yes, I'm very happy. So yay! Hopefully I can read more books in 2016, and you just will have to check out my wrap-up, and let's hope I'm not too late with uploading them. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys liked this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!